over!
This is the Twins with the Grand Old Time Cast, and this is our video essay on, I guess, Officer Candidate School Phase 1. So, in Officer Candidate School, there are OCS. There are multiple kinds of OCSs. So you have Federal, which is where your active duty component, and the Guard component is welcome there as well. Like, they have slots available. In fact, one of our captains tried to convince myself or Chad to go into the Federal slot that they had available. Hines ended up going, right?
Yeah.
So, another person took that slot because we were like, no, we would like to do traditional together. So you have Federal, which is where that component goes to, and then you have ROTC, which is your college level thing. So it's like if you go to college and you want to get an ROTC scholarship, you go to college like a normal student, except once a week you go to drill with your at that school, whether the OSU, OU, wherever you go to that ROTC program once a week, and you learn whatever it is you're supposed to learn for that week's educational slot. And then you have what we went through, which is you have the state OCS program. You have two types. You have state traditional, and you have the state accelerated program. And the accelerated program is very similar to Federal. You go away for 2 months to one of the locations, which it could be South Dakota, or it could be Alabama, are the two locations that I know for sure. Or you could do what we did, and you could go to traditional, and for traditional at Phase 1, we went to Salina, Kansas. So, and that's what this is going to be about, our Phase 1 experience.
That's right.
What I'll say is, start kind of with my background, or our background, I guess, is we went to basic training at different times. So you went, when did you go?
I went in September of 2022. Yep. And then I
graduated
December 1st of 2022. And then I started OCS in pre-OCS in 2023 of it was January of 2023.
Nice, yeah. And then when he got back, I left immediately. Like I left the 2nd of January.
Yep.
For my basic training time, and I got back in March 16th of 2023.
Yep,
so
that's right.
yeah, and unlike him, he got like a whole month off when he got back from basic training because it was December, and that had that big old Christmas leave block. And then I get back and I have drill the very next weekend. It sucked. Like I was like, this blows. Like I've been away for 2 months or 2.5 months, and I have to go immediately to my first drill at pre-OCS.
I gotta tell you, Granny, this blows. How much more of this?
It wasn't bad, but but pre-OCS is where we got a lot figured out, essentially. So they kind of prep. Pre-OCS is just a prep course. It's just a lot of states call it phase zero, but we just call it pre-OCS because they prep you to survive phase 1. Like they really don't care about much else of anything. Like they'll teach you TLPs and op words and things like that, but very minimally. They're just trying to make sure that you survive phase 1. And the things you need to survive phase 1 are land nav and knowing your first 4. If you know those things, you can survive phase 1.
PT as well, but
yes,
PT in the Army is kind of mandatory.
Yeah, PT is mandatory. But that's what I'll say is you learn land nav, and I needed land nav because I did not get taught land nav a whole lot at basic training. I was screwed over. Every time we did land nav training, I was on a detail. So I'd be a whammo detail, or I'd be like kitchen detail or something. So I had some working knowledge. I'd done my research and done YouTube videos to learn how to do land nav, but until you actually apply it out in the field, it's just kind of knowledge sitting there.
It's useful, but it's not helpful knowledge until you actually do it for yourself.
Absolutely. So again, pre-OCS was fantastic. But Oklahoma did a great job of prepping us to survive phase 1 with doing land nav, and then again your first 4. So, and your first 4 it's the first 4 things that come out of your mouth before you address any cadre member when you're in OCS. And those first 4. So your first 4 are Sir, Officer Candidate, state your name. So in my case, Sir, Officer Candidate Watson, good morning, sir, or something like that. So that's how you would address somebody.
Yeah.
So if it's a woman, you say, ma'am, Officer Candidate Watson. Or if it's a sergeant, you say, Sergeant, Officer Candidate Watson. So you have to use your first 4 to address anybody when you're in the OCS schoolhouse environment. So be prepared for that. That's one of the most important things you'll learn while you're there, because they will punish you severely if you do not start every conversation with your first 4.
When you talk to an officer, you say sir.
Now that you know like kind of our background, so we're 09 Sierras, graduated. We don't have any prior military experience, so we're just going in blind. So we've only been in a training environment ever since we've been in the military. So we've only been in this, I mean, imagine being in a training environment for almost 2 years. Like, I mean, you just getting the crap kicked out of you constantly. You're never right. You're just this POS that's just existing, and they treat you as such. Now, like I said, pre-OCS was actually pretty chill. It was a relatively chill environment, but, they did keep decorum and you had to keep rules, but it was relatively chill. But the minute you get into OCS, man, they kick it into gear. In phase 1, we had about 100 people, and we graduated with 70 out of phase 1. So 70 people survived out of 100. So that's about a 30% attrition rate. So keep that in mind when you go. Like, I mean, it's not hard, but it's not easy either. Nothing is. Nothing worth doing is easy. So
some of those points in the land nav are hard to find. They are very hard to find.
Absolutely, yeah. Land nav, like the reason we do land nav so much in Oklahoma is because that's what you're going to have to know in order to survive. Yeah. And it's smart that Oklahoma focuses solely on that for pre-OCS.
Yeah. Land nav drops most people out of OCS.
Yes, it does.
Failing the land nav will drop most people out of OCS.
There should be no fence here.
We could go over it, sir.
Really? That's not the point. Where the goddamn hell are we?
So again, started with 100, ended up with 70 from phase 1. Now, when you go into the program, it's like basic training but worse, I would say, at least phase 1. So whenever we were prepping to leave, we had captain and cadre, kind of talking and discussing amongst themselves, like, who do you think's going to do well? What do you think's going to happen here? And I remember specifically, our captain of the pre-OCS program was like, people were like, they come up to me and Chad and be like, are you worried about the Watsons at all? And he goes, oh no, I'm not worried about the Watsons at all. And like, why? They're, like, we're 30-year-old guys. We're not young by any stretch of the mind, but we're not that old either. But they were like, well, why aren't you worried about them? And he goes, they don't know any better. And again, that's because we're 09 Sierras. We haven't been in any regular units. So he goes, they don't know any better. They've never been in the regular Army, so they don't know. They've only ever been treated like crap, so they're going to be used to this once they get there. And he was correct. It's like, it was just like going back to basic training when we got to phase 1. Like, there was just lots of yelling, lots of push-ups, lots of punishment.
Mm-hmm. Which, that's why they have to prep
NCOs
and prior enlisted that are going to OCS, because they're about to be treated like garbage again.
Yeah,
and it's a culture shock for a lot of them. A lot of them will drop for just that reason.
Absolutely, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, it's officers. It's a gentleman's course. It's a good old boys club." It is once you get there, but holy cow, like that, you have to earn it though.
Yeah,
and they make sure you own it at phase 1 of traditional OCS. They make sure, because you are treated like crap the whole time you're there. Now, it's not unjust or anything like that. I mean, I guess sometimes it can be unjust, but
it can feel that way.
Yeah, it can feel that way for sure. But just be prepared, because if you're an NCO and you're used to being treated a certain way and you go there, it will be a huge culture shock. And there were a lot of NCOs. I mean, it was fun. Like, I mean, now it was interesting because, not having any prior experience in the military, like listening to the NCOs who were there at phase 1, they're like, I've never been treated this badly in the military. It's like, this is crazy. Like, I've never been treated like this.
Man, this is some bullshit! Boo this man!
And maybe it's maybe because they've been in so long, they don't realize that basic training was probably kind of like that. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe they had a really easy time at basic training. I don't know. But listening to the NCOs kind of complain was kind of funny, because it's like, why is this so different? Like, is this really a big culture shock to you? And they were like, yeah, it really is. So that was interesting. It was an interesting aspect of it that, you didn't really get to think about. And again, the captain was correct. He was like, we don't know any better, so we're not going to have that hard of a time adjusting to it.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
Getting back on track. So the day we show up to drill, you get to the RTI, or the Regional Training Institute, which isn't for us, it was in OKC. And we do a layout, and the cadre makes sure we have all our equipment. We're 100% ready to go. Make sure that we get issued our compasses and things like that for our land nav portion of what we do. And it was it's the slog of just doing a layout and making sure you're ready to go. You know, it's just if you're in the Army, you know layouts are layouts, and you have to do them all the time. So, with that being said, we get there, and then the next day we load our rucks and our our duffel bags into the vehicles to be transported up there, and then we get issued these, this is our OC guide for Phase 1 for Kansas. So this is what ours look like. You want to put this in a Ziploc baggie, like fold it like this, and then put it in a Ziploc baggie and keep it dry, because I did not. As you can tell, mine's seen better days, and it's not because it's old. It's because for the first little bit I had it, I just put it in my side pocket on my pants, and it got weathered and got wet.
Sweaty.
Because you're sweating, because they're just they're punishing you with getting smoked, or it's corrective training all the time. So you're just soaked. So I finally they were like, you need to put this in a Ziploc baggie. You're not going to have it anymore. I was like, oh, okay. So that's what you do. You put it in a Ziploc baggie. It keeps it safe from your own sweat, because it's not the weather.
Actually is held up pretty well. Mine is like completely destroyed.
Yeah. So you'll want that, because you like. For every time, if your nose is not buried in this when you're there, again, Phase 1 is what I thought basic training was going to be like. I mean, like, if you weren't doing PT or in classroom setting, or you were just standing around, if you weren't looking at this when you were just standing around, you were in trouble.
Yes.
So if your nose was not buried in this when you had spare time, you were getting yelled at.
Yep.
So that's kind of the way it is. So, again, we get to Kansas. So as we load up, we're going to Kansas. One of the guys actually was reading through this OC guide. It was Johnson, OC Johnson,
right.
and he was reading through this, and he goes, "Oh my gosh!" And he's a college student, and he was like, "I don't have enough credit hours to actually go." So thank goodness, before he loaded onto the bus with us, he read this, and he went up to our cadre and was like, "Cadre, they changed the requirements for college hours, and I can't go." And they were like, "Okay, well, I guess you're staying in the pre-OCS program for another cycle."
Yeah.
And that's what he had to do. So God bless him for seeing that, because it would have sucked if he went all the way up there with us and then just had to sit until a cadre member could take him home, because that would not have been fun. So there is valuable information here, especially for you kids who are in college, and if you don't have enough credit hours to go,
the guys
you
in the
better
gold
make
program.
sure that you read this to make sure that you are able to go. So that's kind of one of those blocks that I didn't have to read, because we were graduated, so it wasn't even an issue. So with that being said, there is good information in here that you have to know. So make sure you read that OC guide. And, they tell you need to memorize your OC guide. Well, we got it assigned to us as we left that day, and we had 3 hours to try to memorize it. Not going to happen. If we could have gotten it a week in advance or something, maybe we could have memorized it. But there's a lot of information in here, and there's no way you could memorize it all. So we're driving up. And once we get up past a certain, there's like a halfway point, like the cadre make us get out of the car, and they go, "Hey, if you got to go to your restroom, go, but you're going to change into your PTs right now."
Orders change, get up! Lectures are canceled. Easy Company is running up Curry. Move!
And they start getting, the drive was pleasant until this point, and they're like, "Get into your PTs." And then they're being gruff, but they're prepping you for what's about to come. Because once you get there to the location, you are under rules and you are ready to go. So that kind of got us into the mindset of, it's time to get serious, because we're almost there.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. So we changed into our PT gear in this small little car, getting yelled at the whole time we're trying to do it. So they are prepping you for that. Once you arrive, we're unloading, we're carrying our duffel bags and our ruck packs everywhere we go. We are getting scrutinized by cadre. Once you get off the bus, we're doing height, weight.
Get on the scale, son. All right. Get off the scale. Turn off.
We're doing another layout when we get there, making sure we have all of our equipment. And then we get pseudo-assigned barracks, and you don't get comfy at any barrack you get into, because they're going to change it. Like, you'll get there, and they'll be like, "Oh, no, we're going to move you here, we're going to move you there." So it's chaos a lot of the time while you're there. You're just kind of living at the mercy of the cadre. Mm-hmm. But once you get there, again, you're under rules. So anytime you see an officer, you have to say, "Sir, Officer Grant Watson, good whatever time of day it is." So good afternoon or good evening. And so as we're checking out weapons and equipment, I remember you and I were running around, and there was like that 6'5" captain that was outside.
Yeah.
And we were running out to go get something off of our bags or get some of our equipment to go do a checkout. And we were like, and you were like, oh, I think we have to address that captain. So I was like, on the way back, we're like, Sir, Officer Candidate Watson, good morning, sir, or good afternoon, sir. And he was like, you didn't get me when you came out. I'll get you back later. I'll tag you later. We're just sitting there like, okay. So, yeah, we're sitting there. We're worried about what's going to happen. And you have to address every single officer you see. So it's not like addressing an officer like it's like when they get to the marching area, or what do you call it, within a certain distance, like because in the actual Army, like there's you don't call it when they're like a mile away. It's like when you're OCS, you call it the minute you see it. It could be literally a mile away, and you call it and you scream it, and then everybody comes to attention. You say, Sir, Officer Candidate Watson, good morning, sir, and you could barely see them. They call that. You have to call that out immediately. So that's the kind of crap you got to be ready for, because they will be, you're under rules, you're under their mercy. But again, when you're there right off the bus, you're actually not under rules yet, technically. Like, you're there pseudo under rules because you're there and you're on environment, and you might as well just start doing it to do it. But, you don't have the opening ceremony until the next day. So you're just, again, it's this limbo gray area, but just act like you're under rules anyway, because there's no point getting yelled at by cadre for no reason. So, so you're running around, you're doing all this, you're having to do your first 4, running around like a chicken with your head cut off, getting all this in processing, getting all your equipment, weapons draw, things like that. And, but you'll need to know a handful of stuff, like, again, stuff that's inside this OC guide. So you'll want to know who the current company battalion commander is for the environment. You'll want to know who your company, you'll have to go as high as the president. You have to know who the current president is, Secretary of Defense, Vice President, all that stuff. They want you to know all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you'll also want to know what an op order is, and want to know what your troop leading procedures are. They even want you to know what the 5 principles of patrolling are. So that's just stuff that you'll be reading in your book the whole time. And, so let's say you're at chow, and you're standing in line for chow. If your nose isn't buried in this when you're waiting to get a chow, the cadre member's going to come up to you and be like, I guess you know everything in this book, huh? And they'll just start drilling you.
They'll take it from you, and they'll start asking you questions immediately out of that book.
I remember sitting there, and you'd be reading this book, and like I said, sometimes you're tired too, so you're just kind of looking at it, but you're not actually reading anything or actually learning anything. You're just reading the words, but you're not actually focusing on the words, because it's so chaotic, and you're moving in line constantly. And somebody will come up to you, and the captain will be like, what are the 5 principles of patrolling? I just remember sitting there going, I don't know. But then that's when you say, if you don't know something, you don't answer. If you don't know it, you just say, Sir, Officer Candidate Watson, I don't know, but I will find out. Always offer a solution. Never just say, I don't know.
How should I know? I'm retarded.
But don't quibble, because quibbling's a bad thing. And again, I will not lie, cheat, or steal. That's the officer candidate's creed. So I will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. And they are very serious about that. So don't quibble, don't lie, cheat, or steal, and because they will come get you for that. Absolutely. They will honor code violate you out.
Yeah.
So take that seriously.
And that does happen to a lot
It does.
of candidates.
Yeah, it happens to candidates left and right. Don't get caught lying about something silly. And don't get caught quibbling. And then don't get caught, lying about something or stealing. Like I said, don't steal from other guy. And that was the other thing, too, is when you're in that environment, I felt like I could leave my locker unsecure, because there were so many, everybody that I felt was a very trustworthy person there. So basic training, no.
Not so much.
My
Not so
locker
much
was
in basic
locked
training.
all the time at basic training. I always had my locker locked at OCS because I didn't want the cadre ripping my locker apart, but I felt like I could have left it unlocked because everybody there was just I felt like they were super trustworthy people.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you want to know all that stuff, and you want to have your head buried in that OC guide for sure. So, always offer a solution. Don't just say, I don't know. That's not good enough. I don't know, but I will find out. That's always offer solutions. So, then eventually, you'll go to brief with the battalion commander, and they will give you a safety brief / what to expect brief, and then they'll say the official opening ceremony will start tomorrow, and you'll be in your state's companies, and then you'll be divvied up into your actual platoons after that. So that's what happened. So we got briefed, and we go to bed that night, wake up the next day, and do chow, and then we do the opening ceremony. Yeah. And the opening ceremony was it was good. Actually, you could probably find a clip of it and show it, but they live stream it. So and they're all recorded to Facebook.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the consolidation ceremony for Officer Candidate School Phase 1, 1st Battalion, 235th Regiment.
What you are about to do will not be easy. But I'll tell you, as life has taught me, few of the things that are worth accomplishing in our lives are easy. And you'll remember the challenges as you go through this course and that serve into your career. There are 113 staff and cadre members here today who will challenge you mentally, physically, every day. There are black hats who will test your intestinal fortitude, toughness, and grit. But leading is supposed to be challenging. Make the choice right now that you will not quit.
Texas. Kansas. Nebraska. Oklahoma.
They'll give their rah-rah speech about, OCS training tomorrow's leaders and all that jazz. And then a cannon will sound, and then the live stream will cut off. So you hear this cannon go off, and the live stream will cut off, and then after that live stream cuts off, they say, about face, and you about face, and then you turn around and you realize all of the black hats and all of the cadre are behind you, and then that's when the tack attack starts. It's like the shark attack for basic training, but the tack attack is what they call it now, and that's when they just start running at you, and then they start PTing the dog crap out of you. So it is an incredible smoke show, and I say smoke show. They say it's called corrective training, but I mean, like, what purpose is that? Like, we didn't do anything wrong. We just turned around,
You did something wrong. You decided to
show.
Yeah,
we decided to show up. Yeah, you did something. Yeah, I decided to become an officer, and they came up, and they are after you, man. Like you're running, and you can't do anything right. Like the whole time you're getting this smoke session on, you'll be like, lunge, or sprint to that tree, or start low crawling, and then a black hat will pull you aside and start PTing you personally, and then another one will come up like, why aren't you with the rest of the class? And you're like looking, they're like a mile away from you, so you start sprinting, and they go, why are you sprinting? Low crawl to them or lunge to them. No matter what you do, you're wrong. You just it's just chaos. That's all the opening ceremony is. It is controlled chaos. You're just getting yelled at. You're getting smoked, and it's honestly, it was probably a tougher smoking than you get at basic training, but it really wasn't that bad in the grand scheme of things.
No.
So it was. When you're getting smoked, it's never fun while it's happening, and then you look back at it and you're like, it's not that bad. But it's never fun while it's happening. No. that's just the honest truth of how you deal with it.
Not at all. And another thing to keep in mind is right after this, they'll put you into your individual platoons.
Yeah, right after. Yeah.
Yes, but if you're with any of your people from your state, you're probably not going to be with them. Yeah. Now, we got lucky enough. We had a class that was decently sized enough where at least one person was in your platoon, but they weren't in your squad. You guys were like hardly ever in the same squad ever. So you would see your buddies in passing, but that's one of those chaotic things. Just like you need to move on, and you need to be like, how are you going to do in a new group of people? And you have to adjust and get used to it. Which that's a lot of what the Army is. You get thrown into a unit, and you're just like, these people are your family now. Go.
Yeah, and I actually used this, and I actually wrote a letter of recommendation for a guy I went to basic training with, and in the letter I talked about how you make fast friends, and when you make fast friends, because it's just good to have a friend when you're going through the chaos of whatever environment you're in, but you make fast friends because those friends tend to disappear as quickly as you make them, because you won't see them, because they could be in a different company, a different squad, they could be reassigned somewhere else, so make fast friends, and fast friends disappear fast too. So that's just kind of the nature of it. Like there was a lot of good kids I made friends with. That was a guy who slept right next to me in the bunk, didn't make it. Like he got knocked out by land nav, and I was like, he was a good dude. I liked him a whole lot.
Yeah.
And
I had a couple like that as well.
And he just, like I said, literally, he left a note on his bed after he got. And when you get dropped, like, I mean, there's no, like, you're out. Like, they just take you away. Like, he left a note on his bed, said, hey, I had a lot of fun meeting all you guys. Hopefully, see you again someday. I mean, that's it. And he disappeared forever. We never saw him again. So it is an unforgiving environment. So the minute you fail something, you're out. You're gone. So be prepared for that. You know, that's the way all Army training is. The minute you don't pass something, it's like get them out of there.
Well, I mean, you get one retest, and if you fail that retest, yeah, you're out. It's gone.
So, but yeah, so that opening ceremony, that smoke show, you survive that, and then you go and you start getting doled up, and then then you get into the monotony of it all. You get assigned to your company, you get assigned to your
platoon,
company, platoons, and then your squads.
Yes.
And then you get ready, and now I can kind of get in and start breaking down the week one. So God help you if you are assigned to leadership first. So that's what sucks is like if you were thrown into the CO, XO, platoon leaders, and platoon sergeants first, oh my gosh, that's not a fun job. It's a lot of responsibility, and it's right out the gate. You feel bad for all those guys. So Duke was the CO first. I remember he's from Texas, and then Young was the XO.
That's right.
And so, boy, I did not envy them because you're just sitting there like, because you're trying to absorb as much as you can. You watch and learn from, but like I said, the minute you're in it, it's like all that goes out the window. It's like, I don't remember what they were doing. I don't remember what their names are.
What's happening? What's happening?
It's just chaos the whole time. Like, it's like, man, I don't even know what the CO does. I don't know what the XO does. What is the XO? What is the CO? You know, it's like you just get there and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? So, God help you if you're assigned to leadership first. It's a rough learning curve. And but yeah, so you get assigned, and then so your daily routine will kind of look like this. So you'll wake up PT at 0500. You'll wake up at 0500, start PT by 0515, and then you conduct your own PT. You create the PT plan, you execute it, and if the cadres think that you didn't do a good enough job creating a PT plan, they will PT you more.
Yep. And you don't want them to PT you.
You don't want the cadre to PT you. You want to make sure you have a plan that's difficult enough to pass cadre scrutiny, but also you conduct it well and you do the right stretch. You have to do the proper opening stretches. You have to do a proper plan that meets the actual Army doctrine, and then you have to do the cool down drills. If you don't do all that, you don't do it well, they will punish you. So be prepared. We actually got lucky in first platoon. We had a drill sergeant in ours, and he got selected a lot to be the guy. Or if he wasn't the guy, he was an assistant to the guy. So that we really got lucky until the cadre was like, okay, he's done. No more. He can't do it anymore. So you utilize the tools you have available to you, because that's what good leaders do. They utilize the people who are good enough to do the job, and that's how you survive. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of it. So execute your PT plan and make sure you do it well. And then after that, you'll go shower or get ready for chow.
Breakfast chow.
And like this brings us to what we all thought was the hard. At least most of us in Oklahoma thought was the hardest part. So you get there, you get in full battle rattle. So you got your helmet, your ACH, you get your flick, your fight load carrier on with your canteens full. All canteens and your water sources will be 100% full.
Camelback as well. And then
you put your assault pack on, which has probably got 25 pounds worth of gear in there. So. Yep. And then you got your rifle, and then they go, okay, now we're going to double time to chow. And, you're like, oh, okay, this double time to chow. It's nothing. That's a cakewalk. We know the chow's only a quarter mile away, so it's not a big deal. And then they double time, and then you go, double time, and then you see the cadre do this, and you're like, all right, cool. So, and then you start running, and you're like, I'm going to cut, we're going to have to smash cut to Ivy here. I think my buddy Ivy put this better than anybody.
Yeah, I remember the very first day, like, we were getting ready to go to our chow run, getting ready. And they're like, all right, double time. And I was like, I can do double time in full gear. And then it was like we're running and then running faster. And I was just like, oh, my gosh. Like, I was not expecting that.
Flat out sprinting in the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so Ivy's correct. It's like you're sitting there like, oh my God, like this isn't a double time, this is a triple time.
Yeah, this is sprinting.
Yeah, that's flat out sprint to the chow hall. Cadre, they're not wearing the ACH, they're not wearing the fighting locator, they're not tied down like you, they're just wearing OCPs, and they just take off sprinting in their black hat, and that's it.
And they yell, "Keep up with me!"
And God help you if you're road guard, man. Like, if you are road guard, I was road guard once or twice, and, like, try to pass somebody who's sprinting while you're trying to sprint past them.
You basically have to be Usain Bolt at
yes,
that point.
Yeah, you're trying to block the road, but yeah, no, and then you're sprinting to catch back up to the sprinters, and then you get there. So, yeah, the sprint to chow was the worst, and you only sprint there. So it's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You sprint there. You don't sprint. You get to walk. You march back, and then God help the platoon sergeant because he has to march you. And if he messes up marching people, God, they are not nice to him. They are not nice to the platoon sergeants at all. Like the platoon sergeant is by far the hardest job.
Do you not know your left from your right, platoon sergeant?
Yeah. There's no winning if you're the platoon. Like, CO is actually not too bad of a job. The XO is really not too bad of a job. So that, I'll tell you this. So I was assigned to the XO position second. So now that you've got that first week down, I was second in leadership. So Young is prepping me going, you have to do this, and I'm looking through the OC guide. And in the OC guide, it tells you what each position is supposed to do. So my position, I'm supposed to create an XO binder, keep records of all the weapons. So every single M4 that we were issued, I have to have their serial number and the person they're assigned to. And I had to keep a uniform list of all that put together. And then I have to go and communicate with all the platoon sergeants. I'm not in the same room, and I can't go anywhere by myself. So I have to, like, go with a battle buddy to each bay, including the female bay, which is a totally separate bay. And, like, I have to have all of your weapons serial numbers assigned by platoon. So it's difficult, especially when you're under rules. And if the cadres see you walking around outside by yourself, you're punished anyway. So, like, I can't go alone, so I have to have a battle buddy with me at all times. And so I go to work creating this platoon binder. Yep. And I basically created what I call a XO guide for dummies. So inside this, like, I literally give a step-by-step procedure of what my day looked like for the next XO. And that's what you want to do. You want to set the person up behind you for success. And whenever you tell the guy that was in your platoon that became the second XO, what did he say about it?
The second guy, or the third guy that took over XO, yeah, he was like, man, this binder helped me a lot. Like, he's like, this thing saved my life a couple of times. Now, there are stipulations because the person in charge of the XO will give them a job or a task that's going to, be difficult in the long run. But, like, with the help of that XO binder, and everybody just improved upon it. And that's the thing. You want to improve upon the position before you leave it. And that's what I will say you need to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, I had multiple jobs pop up. So, like, I had to do I was XO while we had to do the 6-mile ruck. Yep. And that was not fun nor easy. Not saying the ruck itself was overly difficult, but it was because it was hot and we were walking on gravel that was like this big. And
baseball-sized gravel.
Yeah. So, and it was really hilly out there too. But what was difficult about it was they said the XO Black Hat was like, hey, you need to make sure everyone is packing the exact same stuff in their rucks. Like, and again, it sounds like an easy thing to tell everyone, but I have to go to each bay with a battle buddy to tell, and I had to put a list together. And I had to, like, write 3 different lists to give to 3 different platoon leaders and be like, this is what has to go in the ruck in this order. And then I get out there and, other cadre are loading up the stuff. They go, everybody's already got their rucks loaded up and we're already weighed them. So I go out there and I go, well, we have to repack their rucks. And then, like, the cadre's like, no, they're not. we're not unpacking. We're not unloading this thing. So, and you'll get jobs and you'll be assigned tasks that you can't possibly hope to complete. And that was one of those tasks that I could not hope to complete. So I go out there and the XO Black Hat. So, there's a CO Black Hat who helps the CO. And then you have the XO Black Hat who's like my direct supervisor. So you have an XO or a Black Hat for each position. Mm-hmm. And, he goes, yeah, that was the job that you couldn't possibly complete, but I wanted to make sure that you actually had tried to complete it. So I could tell that I went to other bays and goes, did the XO try to get this information to you? And they go, yeah, we were doing it, but we already had a bunch of rucks loaded up before that, so we got that information. And he's like, okay, so he actually did the thing I told him to do. So you will be given unreasonable time hacks and unreasonable requests to complete. Do your best to complete them, and then delineate that information as best as you can, but sometimes you just won't be able to. And that was one of those jobs where I was like, why did I even bother?
Why are we even doing this then?
So
There's a lot of that. You start questioning your life decisions at Phase 1 OCS. That's
yes,
for sure.
Yes, you do. And again, so that was one of those tasks that I did that was just like it very thankless, but we did it and we got out there. We performed the ruck. I got to be out there with the CO, and we were just like talking together, like, oh, we're just hoping to survive. We're just hoping to survive. And you make fast friends with everybody there because you're all just in this chaos of this moment. So it's kind of a beautiful thing. You trauma bond in the Army.
So, son of a bitch.
So, but yeah, that was a lot of fun being the XO. I actually really enjoyed it, and you learn a lot from doing the positions. Like I didn't have to sprint to chow. Like I had to take I took a separate detail to make sure all the canteens and water all the water jugs were filled. So the first time it was a little rough, but after I did it the first time, like I got it down to a T, and I had my detail. And we were moving like way before, and I was checking. I had to go in and check to make sure that all the instructors were ready to receive us at the classrooms. And I'd come out and I'd be like, CO, we're ready to go inside. They're ready to receive us. And like, they were like, okay, yeah, the XO's doing a good job, So
Which, for those of you who don't know, the XO's job is basically administration work for the CO.
Yes.
You making sure everything in the CO's plan is ready to go. That's the XO's job.
Yeah, and again, like you'll be leading water. So I'm leading a water detail down the street, and like there's civilians driving down these streets and stuff that we're walking on. So I would be like, platoon, like detail halt while we're wet and stuff. And then sometimes cars will let us pass. And I would ask a black hat that I'd be with, I'd be like, sir, is it appropriate to wave and thank people for holding for my detail? And he'd be like, and ask questions like that because it'll actually makes the cadre like and respect you for asking this. So like the sergeant who was with was going, no, because I want you to keep both hands on your weapon. That's the most important thing you can do. But I appreciate that question because I want to make yourself and the Army look good by, being a good civil servant and being thoughtful and thankful for people who are looking out for you and your troops. So he goes, good question, but in this particular scenario, I want you to always have two hands on your rifle. And I was like, roger that, Sergeant. So, those kind of questions are smart ones to ask. And another thing that you did as the XO was, and this is one thing that you have to sing. Or I know you didn't sing, so I had to read the mess. And I didn't know a lot of the rules of the mess, so like I actually had to read things that were real. Like I had to at least read one meal item correctly, and I didn't know that the first time, so I got my butt chewed out for just making it because I didn't know what was on the chow menu. Like, why didn't you send a recon to go? I was like, I didn't know I could do that, So like they're just hammering me, Like I'm just like, I didn't know it had to be real. I didn't know that there was a real menu. I didn't even know. I just assumed we show up and we eat what we eat, So that was one of those things where I had to figure out what the meal was. And I'd have to make a list, but I always did fake stuff. Like, one of the favorite things was I would make up what meals would eat, and I would make up what the black hats would do, So, like, I'd make up what the black hats would eat. So that was a lot of fun. And one of the most fun one I had was one that you weren't expecting, but I got together, and I would read out what we were eating, and then I would say what the black hats are doing. So I'd be like, the candidates will be having green eggs and Spam and, pancakes or something like that. And I'd be like, and the black hats, and then... So the whatever I say, the platoon or the company has to say back to me. Mm-hmm. So I made them sing a song one time. So I was like, I made them sing Rough Riders by DMX, So I was like,
I remember that.
So after I said what was for chow, I said, and the black hats will be for going chow too. And then everyone's like, okay, for going chow too. And then I say stop, and then they all repeat stop, and I go drop. And they all go, drop. And I go, shut them down, open up shop. And then they all start singing. Oh, no, that's how Rough Riders roll. The black, like the whole cadre lost it. Like they loved it. They were eating it up, man.
XO, I was standing right next to the XO because I was a platoon leader at that time. And he turned and looked, because he was an older guy. He was like, is that a hip-hop song or something? I started cracking up at that.
So yeah, it was wild. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was probably the best part of my day, was doing that particular part of reading the reading of chow, and I enjoyed it. And you want to make it fun for yourself and others. And like I said, everyone kind of took a note out of my book and started doing that whenever it was doing the reading of the chow. So this, like, again, all this is week 1 stuff. So it's all very structured during week 1. Week 2 is when it gets a little wild. So week 2 is when you go out into the field and you do your land nav stuff. And when you're doing land nav, it's a lot chiller. So you're out in the field. The black hats do not bother you. And again, for those of you who don't know, like, especially if you're new, like black hats are like drill sergeants. Except they're meaner. Like drill sergeants are actually pretty cool. Like black hats, like they're just there to make your life miserable. So, and you know, you think drill sergeants are mean, black hat captains are way meaner. Way meaner. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, you get out in the field and they pretty much leave you alone. They can still punish you. They can still corrective train you. But
not nearly as severe.
No, and like I said, you're sleeping outside in the field. The only thing you got to do at night is check yourself for ticks. And you know, it's not like when you're in the bay, you sing to the drill sergeants before you go to sleep every night. But when you're there, you just check each other for ticks, and then you go to bed, and you still do fire guard. And you still do fire guard when you're at the base for week 1. So you do fire guard week 1, you do fire guard at night, or guard duty at night. Yeah. And
well, that's also one thing we forgot to mention, was like, if you're leadership, don't expect to sleep that much.
Yeah, I did not sleep when I was leadership. Like, there were people that would wake up and then to go take a leak, and I would still be working on that XO binder, and they'd be like, Watson, you need to go to sleep, dude. And I'd be like, I know, but I got to finish this. And the same time, so when we did that ruck too, after the ruck, they're like downgrade, you know, so we strip off all of our gear and equipment, and we're just walking around. We're eating breakfast at that point, and then we get. And I hear the CO call me, like not my CO, not the CO of the OCs,
class.
The actual CO of the company, and he's like, Watson's come over here, and I'm just like, oh God. So I just take off, and then of course I show up and I don't have my weapon with me because we're downgrading. I'm getting called at by cadre members. I'm getting a million different things happening. Like, make sure everybody eats, make sure everybody does this, make sure everybody does that, make sure that everybody survived the ruck and didn't die. You know, so I'm doing all these jobs, and then finally the CO calls, and whenever CO calls, you just go. You know, so I didn't have my weapon with me, and I had to write, on top of making the XO binder, I had to write a 500-word essay about why I will always keep my weapon with me. So that's another reason I had to stay up even later one night. So, you know, just always have your weapon with you at all times. So. Like I said, doesn't matter how crazy things get, just keep your weapon with you. So, yeah, so out in the field, it's a lot more chill, a lot more lax. You just got to go out there and land nav and trust your equipment. You know, especially if you're a hand railer like me, don't assume you know where you're going. Like, because I was assuming I was walking in a straight line, and use your compass. So, but yeah, no, that land nav course out there was no joke. Like, a lot of people, again, started with 100, ended with 70, and land nav is what killed them.
And nighttime is what's the killer. Nighttime is the killer because you cannot see your points nearly as well.
And there's a creek out there, and you'll fall in it and nearly drown, and you'll lose half your equipment. So make sure all your equipment's tied down to you. But yeah, no, that land nav was no joke. But I found all 5 points on the first try. I know that you had a rougher time finding stuff out there, and you just get lucky sometimes, man. Sometimes you get a good card, sometimes you get a bad card, and. But yeah, no, that was pretty good. The only thing that sucked out while we were out there was we had like a tornado warning one night, and we all had to get in this concrete bunker that was like allegedly tornado proof. But how true that is, I don't know. But yeah, no, that was the worst part for me. Like, out of everything we did, like, I did not like being in that thing with 100 other people. Like, I was suffocating in there, and that was the worst. But yeah, no, it was not too shabby though. That was probably the worst. If that's the worst part of it, then that OCS really wasn't too bad, which it wasn't. But you know, again, looking back at it through rose-tinted lenses, maybe.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, no, so you survive the land nav portion, you go back, and it's pretty chill after that. It's just clean your weapon, which we didn't even shoot our weapons, so I don't know how they got that dirty, but apparently whoever turned them in last time didn't clean them or anything. So
yeah, your last couple days is just clean up the barracks, clean up the weapons, and turn in, and then you're out of there, and you do the little... Yeah,
we watched Band of Brothers a lot while we were there the last couple of days.
I didn't get to watch Band of Brothers.
Oh, that sucks for you.
We never watched anything in our class.
Oh, man. No, and then you do the closing ceremony, so it's a lot like the opening ceremony, except you just they fire the cannons again, but nobody smokes you this time, and then that's how they close out. And it was not too bad. It was a good time for the most part, but yeah, no, it was an experience.
Yeah, it was fun.
And that was what Phase 1 was like for traditional. You know, again, there's other types of OCS, but yeah, Phase 1, and the next time we'll talk about Phase 2 next time while we're here. But yeah, that's about all we've got for you. I hope that you guys find this video essay informative and useful for your future. I know that in Oklahoma, that instead of doing the 17-week program like we're in now, they're actually doing like a 9-week program like Texas does. So they won't They'll still go to Salina, Kansas, but they won't go to
Washington
like we did. We actually just got back from Washington 2 weeks ago. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see whether or not Washington continues doing OCS. So, but yeah, that's about all I've got for you. Hopefully you found this informative. But this is the Twins, and this was the Grand Old Time Cast. We hope you found it enjoyable. Thanks for checking us out. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so other future officer candidates can get some good information out of this, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all. God bless you.